Hi, friends, and welcome to Season 3 of the School Librarian Learning Network podcast. I'm Steve Tetreault, often known as Dr. T Loves Books, and I love talking about all things related to school libraries. I'm an old dog who's always trying to learn new tricks. That's why at each episode of the SLLN podcast, I'll chat with a school librarian about a lesson, program, or activity they love. Hopefully, this can be a place for school librarians to get ideas and find new ways to engage with their students and staff. Speaking of which, I'd love to hear about what you and your friends are doing in your school library. Email me at drtlovesbooks@gmail.com. That's drtlovesbooks@gmail.com to tell me about what you're doing, offer feedback about the SLLN podcast, or to request a podcast sticker. As Amy Herman likes to say, being a guest on a podcast is a great way to show your admins you are engaged in meaningful professional development and leadership in the profession. So drop me a line and let's chat. That being said, the opinions and ideas shared in this podcast by myself and my guests are our own and do not reflect those of our school districts. I just like to geek out about school libraries. So, without further ado, let's get to this week's episode.
Hello, my name's Rain Smith, and I'm a high school library media specialist in Central Indiana. And today we're turning the tables on the School Librarian Learning Podcast, and I'm going to be the guest host.
Yay!
Yay! Throughout the school year, every 2 weeks, many school librarians and supporters participate in a biweekly conversation, the Teacher Librarian Chat on Blue Sky. And this past week, the topic was DIY your library. So doing it yourself, doing all kinds of things with probably little resources. It's about all the creative practices we individually use to meet the needs of our schools. And the whole point of the chat is sharing best practices and getting to know each other. So as a DIYer myself, I'm always inspired by the writings and musings of one school librarian who's more of an expert on the do-it-yourself library than anybody else I know. Literally built a library out of a hallway to begin with. So, the normal host of this podcast, Steve, is your DIY expert this week.
Hey, everybody!
Yay, this is my very special guest. Let's dig in and have fun.
Yeah.
So, welcome to the School Library Learning Network podcast.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's so nice to be here.
Please tell me your name and title and what currently work you're doing, where you're at, all kinds of stuff.
Sure. So, I'm Steve Tetreault, and I am a school library media specialist technically, but I just call myself a school librarian in a middle school in New Jersey. I've been doing that for just hit 4 years, a couple months ago. And before that, I was sort of I called myself a hobbyist librarian since about 2016. I was still in the classroom then, but made my way into the library world. And so it's been a lot. It's been a lot of different kind of stuff going on. So, yeah.
Have you always been in middle school?
I have been in middle school since 1999. I did a year and a half at a high school before I went to the middle school. Middle school was purely an accident. I needed a job and they had a position, but I just so fell in love with being in middle school. So that is where I am living now.
You have to love being in a middle school to be a middle school teacher. If you are not a middle school person,
Yep.
You probably don't understand this. I'm a high school librarian. I can't imagine being anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
My best friend is a middle school librarian, and when I go over and work with her sometimes to do things, I'm all like, help.
Yeah, it is a different world. Yeah.
They are the most lovely kids, but the environment's a little like,
It's sort of like, yeah, we get sort of the not quite high school level. They can sort of kind of do stuff on their own, but not quite. They're not quite the little ones. Like it's a weird mix, but it's fun.
I have some of the dearest friends and people I admire most work in a middle school. So that is totally admiration, just so you know. I admire you deeply.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. So we have brushed on this a little bit, but tell me a little bit more about your school library journey. Like, how did you decide to move from the classroom to being in a school library? Where'd you go to library school? How'd you start out?
Yeah. So it actually all started with my then school librarian at the school I was teaching at going out for a couple of weeks on, he had a leave that he had to go on. And he was like, hey, you sometimes spend your prep in the library anyway. Would you want to just be in here and sort of like keep an eye on things while I'm away during your prep? So I was like, sure, why not? So kind of doing that, seeing what was going on. I was like, oh, this is kind of neat. Like, this is a neat thing. And he came back and he was like, oh, everything's, nothing was destroyed. Everything's where it's supposed to be. So that's great. And
As
he
a
said,
school librarian, the best feeling is leaving your library with somebody coming back and being like, nothing's destroyed.
yeah, exactly. Low bar, but, sometimes that's the bar you need. So he came back and he was like, you seemed to really enjoy being in here. I'm thinking about maybe, in a couple of years retiring. Would you want to take over? And I was like, literally, it had just never crossed my mind. And I don't know why. I love books. I love libraries. I love the space. Just never had crossed my mind. And he said that, and I was like, that's an interesting idea. So I applied to Rutgers University's Masters of Information program and got in, and it was quick. It was I think I did all online at the time. Yeah, all online. And it was just one thing after another, like, we're going to zip through this. And it was amazing because I was, at that point, I'd been in the classroom for just about 20 years, I think. And I was very comfortable as an English teacher. And going through the MI program, I learned so many things. Like, there's so many things that as soon as I heard them, I went, oh, of course that's a thing we should be doing. But it didn't quite fit into the English curriculum. Like, some of it was like citation. Yes, of course, we got to cite stuff. But like digging into sources more than we were and thinking about reliability of sources, like things that in my head I know are important, but had never really thought about how are we teaching students about that. And I was just so absolutely overcome with a need to be able to share this information with people. And so it started making its way into my English instruction. Right around the time I was wrapping up the program, I actually was invited to write a curriculum for a class that they were calling Argument and Debate, which was supposed to be like a writing and speaking class. And I absolutely 100% turned it into a library skills class. Like, it became all about information literacy and finding resources and identifying reliability. And like, we were doing the other stuff, but it was all in service of, we're going to get good library skills. So that was kind of how I stumbled backwards into the school library program itself. That was when things got interesting. I got my degree, and let's see, it was 2018. I finished my classwork. January 2019, I got my diploma, and very excited. And my school librarian had said in 2018, 2019 was going to be his last year. So I was like, this is awesome. One of my final projects for my program was to come up with a 5-year plan for a theoretical library. And it wasn't theoretical. It was going to be my library. Like, I had the measurements, the dimensions. Like, I knew I was going to put this over there and that over there. And this is how we're going to change this. So stoked, so excited. And our school was in the process of the first renovation it had had since it was built, 1960, I think it was. We had just celebrated our 50-year anniversary. Every other school in the district had gotten renovations done. Every school had had wings put on, had air conditioning installed, had like all this stuff done. And our school...
You didn't get air conditioning till 2019?
So they had put in... That was the one thing that they did. They put in air conditioning.
I was like, I feel terrible for you.
That was literally the one addition they had done to our school in 60 years. So part of the renovation was supposed to be, we're going to redo the library space. And so I was kind of lukewarm on the plan they had for what the renovation was going to be. They didn't ask a librarian what it was supposed to look like, but I was like, hey, you know what? New library, great. We'll roll with it, right? So very, looking forward to stepping into this, figuring like this is just going to be, he's going to go out, I'm going to come in. This is going to be perfect. And then there was a big snag with the renovation. There was a big snag with the budget. And they said, we don't have the money we thought we had. We're going to have to change the renovation plans. Rather than renovating the library, we're going to turn the library into science labs because we need new science labs. And so instead of renovating, they closed the library. And my middle school and high school are connected. We're a middle school, high school campus. And they said, since the high school has a library, the middle school kids can just go over to the high school and use the high school library when they need a library. Which, like, if you're looking at it from an outside perspective, if you're looking at it from maybe a pure logic point of view, that seems to make sense on the surface.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. When you actually time how long it takes to walk from any of the middle school rooms to the high school library, it's no less than 4 minutes to get just to walk from one place to the other place. And then you got to come back. So there's 8 to 10 minutes just walking back and forth. You haven't even gotten to the library yet. So we're talking about a quarter of a class gone before you can even get to the space. Add on top of that, the high school has twice as many students as the middle school. And the high school librarian has a full complement of things to do. Like he's already teaching all of the high school. So he didn't have the time, like literally just didn't have the time.
No capacity.
That's it. No capacity to kind of deal with the middle school on top of the high school. And like, no shade. Like that's just,
no shame.
You've already got a full-time job. And then we want to throw another full-time job on top of that.
This is that thing where we always ask all school personnel, but specifically school librarians, to keep picking up slack and picking up slack and because we don't want kids to struggle, we frequently say yes to too many things.
Yep.
And there's no capacity at some point.
Yeah. You just run out of time, you run out of resources. So it was a confluence of events that led to, our middle school library closed, and they actually did do a renovation on the high school library. They made it a third smaller. They got rid of about...
They made it smaller?
Yes, they did. They put in a hallway. Because apparently we didn't have enough hallways in the high school, so we're going to put in another hallway, and we're going to take out a third of the high school library to do that. A good use of space. That was, there were issues. There were things that went on during all of this that were just mind-boggling. But in shutting down our library, one of the things that happened was they just basically started throwing stuff out. And they got rid of like all the furniture. They got rid of all the shelving. They got rid of pretty much all the books. The books were supposed to get packed up and reopened over in the high school library, but that's not quite how that worked out. So the library basically just was dissolved.
Gone.
So the next school year, we don't have a library in our school. Students and the students aren't allowed to go to the high school by themselves. So they can't go to the library they don't really have free time. But if they did, they couldn't go. The teachers don't really have the time in their schedule to bring the kids over. The high school librarian doesn't have the capacity to be able to deal with how do I orient and, provide services for the middle schools. That was the 2019-2020 school year. That was also...
At this point, they've dissolved and closed the library space itself.
Yep.
The librarians retired, and they did not replace the middle school librarian either?
Did not replace the middle school librarian, because why do we need a middle school librarian if we don't have a middle school library? Yep. You've got it.
So you lost the building and the person. I just want to highlight that partially because libraries are great.
Mm-hmm.
Libraries are perfect, and libraries need space and materials, but it's not a library if you don't have a librarian.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just a book closet.
Just a book closet, which is what the first school library was, by the way. If y'all haven't studied history, the first school library was in a janitor's closet.
Oh, nice. I love that. I didn't know that. Cool. Learning something new every day. I love it. So that was 2019-2020. And obviously 2019-2020, we also got hit with COVID, which was awesome. So that kind of just threw a whole wrench in the works on top of everything else. And so let's see, 2019-2020, we don't have a library. 2020-2021, we're sort of partially back. We're sort of partially not back. So like, again, library was very low down the list of things people were worrying about. But at the end of the school year, every year, we get the opportunity to request what we want our position to be for the following year. Mm-hmm. And it's not a guarantee, but we can kind of basically say, like, I want to keep doing what I'm doing, or I want to try something different. So I think it was the 2020, 2021 school year. I got that, and I'm looking at it, and I'm going, it never hurts to ask. So I put into mind that I would like to be the middle school librarian and provide services for the middle school students from the high school library. And the library supervisor at the time she and I had worked together for many years on different committees and stuff, so we kind of knew each other. And she reached out and she was like, this is interesting. And she is very much, she was the technology supervisor first before she took over libraries as well, but she was very much a libraries kind of person. So she's looking at it, she's like, this is really a good idea, but how do we sell it? Because how do we say we need a librarian when there's no library? So we ended up doing a lot of research. Turns out that one of the schools that my district loves to compete with, the high school one of my districts loves to compete with, is they have 2 high school librarians in their space. So my supervisor, my not yet supervisor, said, okay, so here's the thing. Like, we know that these guys are competitive with us. And so here's the tool we're going to try. And it took a year and change for her to sort of leverage and wedge and convince and connive. And eventually in let's see, it must have been December of 21. So it was the 21-22 school year. She came to me and she was like, okay, so we're going to try this out. We're going to put you in at the high school as the co-librarian, and you're going to provide services for the middle school. I was like, awesome, great. So that was end of January 22 is when I started in the library. Working out of the high school library, sitting at the circulation desk with the high school librarian and trying to figure out, okay, what do I do? Now we got a librarian, we don't have a library. But the supervisor who hired me was like, okay, look, I've been squirreling some money away for a rainy day. Here's $4,000. You need to buy books for the middle school because we don't have any books for the middle school because all the stuff from the middle school got boxed up and it was supposed to make its way to the high school, but it just disappeared.
It disappeared.
And we're talking thousands of volumes just gone into the ether. And I had done my field placement in my middle school library before they closed it. And I had gotten to purchase several $1,000s worth of brand new books gone into the ether. And I was like, oh my God, so frustrating. But great. Here's a chunk of money. Buy books. Hell yeah. So my first week on the job was literally just making up the longest lists I could of we need to buy this, we need to buy this, we need to buy this. And my boss was just like, yes. Like there was never even a hesitation. She was like, yes, absolutely. Go buy books. So that was awesome. Came in September to just boxes and boxes and boxes of books. So great. Start getting it figured out. Start figuring out how these going to fit on the shelves. How do we rearrange the high school collection so that this is all visible? Because it was a lot of nonfiction that was on display. Very little fiction. The high school had not quite zero, but real close to zero fiction titles. And
because this is a podcast, no one can see the face I just made.
There's there's a lot. I mean, I'm going to say that the middle school collection before they closed the library got a real big weed. I got to help with that. And we got rid of thousands of books when we did the weed. And some of it was from when they opened that school library in the 90s or 60s. And so the high school library was in a similar boat. Like they have more stuff that goes back so many years. And the budgets for the library have been real. I mean, I think as far as I know, before I started, they were not very robust budgets. So, you work with what you got and you try and figure out where you're going to put your money. And a lot of the high school, they were paying for some real good databases up there for different stuff. And that was eating up pretty much all their budget, which, that's a choice you make. If that's what your students are using, great, you do that. So, we had to refigure just the physical space. Like, now we have books. Where do they go? How do we display them? How do we get them to students? So I spent 22-23 school year. I spent a chunk of that time just figuring out, like, how do I even set up the physical space in the high school? And then, okay, now I've got books here. How do I connect the students with the books? Because they are in separate places. And we were using Destiny, and it literally, the way it was set up, the students had to be on a desktop to access Destiny. And there were only, I think the classrooms had one desktop each, and that was the teacher's desktop. And there was no place for the students to go and use desktops. So they literally could not see digitally what was in the catalog. Yeah. So they couldn't physically see it because they couldn't go there. They couldn't digitally see it because they couldn't access it. So I had also, around the time I was getting books, had said, look, this is going to be a problem. We need to figure this catalog situation out. So we also went to a new catalog. So here's the new guy showing up with books and books and books, rearranging the high school librarian's space, giving them a new catalog to work with. Like, I was just bad news from start. And I feel bad. Like, I know, like, if somebody came into my space and was like, okay, look, we're changing everything, I wouldn't be super stoked either. But we got the new catalog. The kids can finally see what's in the catalog. They can kind of start to make connections. And I was literally, they could go in finally and place holds on books, which was awesome. So they would place a hold. I'd get a notice on my computer. I would go pull it off the shelf, check it out to the kid, and then go look up the kid's schedule and track the kid down and be like, okay, you're in math right now. Here's your book. Like, walk into math class and be like, I've got a book for John Smith, and embarrass the hell out of the kids. But like, the kids who were getting books were like, I'm getting books delivered right to my class. This is awesome.
Kids love book delivery.
They do. And what was kind of funny was the kids who love books loved it. The kids who love disruption loved it. They started putting books on hold too, which I was okay with, because they were like, actually, some of them were actually reading the books. So,
genius.
it was working out. It's all coming around. So we did that for a while. And then it was, must have been November 23, I think, that I was like, okay, we've been sort of like, during the 22-23 school year, the kids were placing holds, I'm delivering books, and I would like every once in a while just load up a cart and go to a teacher's class and be like, okay, here's new stuff that we've got. Like, let me just book talk some stuff. And kids would check stuff off the cart, which was great. But it's still not the same as them like having the ability to just browse and see what's there. You know, me book talking is awesome, but that's one book. And then they get like 5 minutes to look at a cart full of books that most of them are spine out instead of face out. So they can't really see them. Wasn't ideal. Better than what we had, better than the zero that we had, but not great. So kind of made our way through that for most of a year. So that's November, brings us to November 23. November 23, we've got a couple of long weekends, like 5-day weekends coming up. And I'm like, okay, I want the kids to have books in their hands. They need to see what we've got. And this is where I really started to, what I think of as get creative. When they redid our school, where the doors to the library used to be, got turned into this weird alcove in the middle of one of the main hallways. And it's like, it's got to be about 10, 15 feet long alcove. It's about 4 feet deep. So there's enough space that you could like set up a table there. So I got this idea. I'm going to have a pop-up library. So the first long weekend in November, I trucked down, I pulled some tables out of a room that wasn't being used, set them up in this hall, grabbed as many books as I could load onto the cart, started spreading them out all along these tables. I got whatever carts I could get, spread them out all along the carts. And in between classes, when the kids were doing passing, I was out there hawking books. Like, you look like you like sports. Come here. I got sports books. You look like like graphic novels. Here you go. Come on over. And the kids were like, oh my gosh. And so they were coming over and like browsing the books and checking stuff out. And I had like a little mobile checkout station set up so I could check them out right there as they're going to class. So that's how I spent the day. And our circulation like quadrupled from that one day, you know? And I was like, okay, so this works. This is good. And then Thanksgiving long weekend was coming. I did the same thing. And my vice principal was walking around and she saw this. She was like, that's awesome. That's so cool. Around the same time, the principal was retiring. The vice principal was going for the position. She came to me and she said, look, I think libraries are important. I said, yes, they are. She said, so she goes,
Thank you. I agree.
Yeah. She's like, so do you have any information that might be able to help me make that case when I go to the interview that I'm going to? I was like, do I? So,
and did you drop like a tome?
Yeah, like it's funny because I had actually made a 1-page, which is now actually like 4 pages, but it was all just like why New Jersey school libraries are so important. They do this, they do that, they hit these state standards, they do these things that are important for student development. Like it was just pages and pages to just make that case. And I was like, okay, so here's this document that has all these studies and links, and then here's a bunch of studies to go with it. And she was like, oh my gosh. So
I don't know a school librarian who can't just whip that out.
Yeah,
like,
right?
Hi, prove to me your worth.
Here you go. Got it handy, got it bookmarked, ready to go.
We really are prepared to advocate.
Yes, absolutely. So she was like, oh, this is so great. She went, she ends up getting the position. Awesome. Comes to me, she found out she got the position, and the next day she came to me and she was like, look, I think libraries are important. You think libraries are important. We need to get a library space back in this school. Where can we set up? And I'm looking around, I'm like, no. She was like, what about this room that's only used as a conference room like once a month? I was like, yes, absolutely. Like it's as big as a large classroom, but it's better than standing in the hallway. So yes, absolutely. Let's do this. And so that was how we kind of ended up creating a library in a school that didn't have a library. We got this, they called it a conference room. It was set up as when they redid the school as part of the renovation, this space used to be the copy room and the guidance offices. And that became this, they called it the collaboratorium when they first built it.
The collaboratorium.
The collaboratorium.
I'm sorry, that's hilarious. I love that schools always name spaces like trendy things.
Yep.
Can you imagine 60 years from now, some kid being like, and this is our collaboratory.
Exactly. Filled it with movable tables, folding tables. They filled it with chairs. And the idea was you could bring 2 or 3 classes into this one space and they could work together, which the idea is not a bad idea, in theory. But
side note, my dream space would have a collaboratorium attached to the school library.
Yes.
So when I need to teach 2 or 3 classes at a time, they could just go into the collaboratorium.
Exactly.
It's an extension of the school library.
Yes, it should be. So they built this space, and from day one, like, it wasn't getting used. Then it turned into a advisory, like basically study hall room. And so all the furniture was getting written on and torn up because the kids are doing nothing for an hour at a time. And finally they turned it into a conference room, and it's got a Promethean board and 2 60-inch TVs. And the idea was, if you were doing a video conference, you didn't have to be sitting in front of the Promethean board. You could actually look at these screens that are on the side of the room as well. And so it got used for that, like, a couple of times. I used it as I did a virtual author visit with it, which was kind of fun, but it was only basically getting used. The room was getting used maybe once a month for administration meetings. And so the principal was like, look, if it's getting used 1 day a month and it's not getting used 29 days a month, let's use it for that 29 days. And if you've got to bail on that one day they're doing meetings or whatever, great, fine, whatever. So I was like, that totally makes sense to me. So it's a concrete bunker in the middle of the school, 0 windows. It's got doors on 2 walls that are both exit onto major hallways that are like huge traffic. And so right away I was like, okay, step 1 is we need the kids coming through here. So I chalked open the doors so that they could walk from one busy hallway to another busy hallway through the library. And I took some of those tables that were in the room, spread them out right along the path of travel. So that as you walked in one door and walked toward the other, it was just tables all along one side. And I just did front-facing books all along the tables so that as the kids are walking through, they are able to browse on their way to and from different classes. And like, we've got 0 shelving. We've got like, I got no place to put books except on these tables, but I'm like, that's where we start. Like, that's how we begin. So that was sort of the genesis of our library.
I love that.
A long way to get there, but that's where we ended up.
Well, actually, and you covered like my next 5 questions, so it was perfect. You geniusly did what you were supposed to do. And I love that you fought for it. You fought for it, and that's important. And I love that you did find an administrator that understood that. Yes.
I was so lucky that both the library's supervisor and my vice principal becoming principal, both of them were so on board with getting us library space. And I'm so glad. It literally would not have happened without the 2 of them. I had other administrators and other supervisors that I've worked with before and after, and none of them were as supportive as these 2 about this space. So I am super lucky that I was able to get my foot in the door with these 2.
I also think it goes back a little bit to something we said a smidge earlier about, like, a library is not a library without a librarian as well. Your library takes on your personality when you're a solo librarian.
Yes.
And even to a degree when you work with a partner, because that collaboration takes on a thing that becomes the library as well. And I really, truly think your personality is what caused a library to happen. Another person may have not, even with administrative support, gotten that to happen. So good for you. Kudos, because that's exactly what should happen. Everybody should strong arm their administration into fixing their library or making their library. I also love that you talk about your found space, and we're going to talk about more about that here in a second, but you talk about your found space kind of being like a walkthrough or problematic. Design school libraries have these issues. Like, I love that it's a rando room and it still has the same issues mine do, or that, like, or my temporary one. And y'all know I'm in my 2nd space in a year and I'm about to move to my 3rd. So like it doesn't matter if it's designed library space or found space. We all are like, and we have no walls, or, oh, the doors go as a hallway. Like, it blows my mind.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're all the same, even when they're very different.
Yeah. Well, and like, even I don't understand why they don't ask practicing school librarians to help design library spaces.
Well, and I have gotten to work on my remodel. So my building is under construction, and we have a brand new academic wing opening, and we have a new performing arts department about to open. We have a new cafeteria, but we're also remodeling the current structure. And I was included in the conversations from the beginning, which is why I'm getting a remodel, and I'm not in the new academic wing, because everything they showed me, I was like, no, no. So they were like, fine, we'll put you back where you are. And I'm like, okay, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that sounds like I'm terrible, but like, not that being in a new space wouldn't have been lovely, but my dream library does not have no walls. Like everything they showed me had no walls. And I was like, no, I need walls.
Yeah. How do you, boy, that's a
I
tough
need
space.
walls, please. So that's funny. So you're in, I also got to tell you, time is not a concept apparently, because I did not realize how super recently it was
Yes.
that you've been in this. Like I've watched this. So you earned your degree.
Yep.
And started library worlding about the time I moved into my library.
Okay.
When I took my school library position. 17 is when I became I've had my degree since 05. But 17 is when I moved into my school library out of my classroom.
Gotcha.
So we parallel have spent a lot of time seeing each other write and talk.
Well, that
and
was
interact.
2016 is when I started the program. And like right away, I was like, oh, I need to be part of this. And that was when I starting to connect with people. And actually, my advisor, Joyce Valenza, requires her students to get onto social media and connect with the school library community that's out there. Until then, I was so not on social media ever. And I found the school library community. I was like, not only do I enjoy doing this, but I'm learning so much. Like it became such a resource.
And we did that at about the same time, but I was doing it as a professional, like not that you weren't a professional, but as a professional at that point, because I had moved into a school library and was like, I need this connection because I'm a solo person. And you were doing it as learning. But in my brain, I feel like you've been in your school library longer than you have because of that. And so I'm taken by the fact that you're like, oh, I've been in this actual space like 2 years.
Yeah.
And I have watched, if y'all don't follow Steve and don't see what he's doing, there's lots of frequent fun story, like all of us do, sharing silly stories of students and all that, but tons and tons of photos and pictures and things of how things are changing daily and weekly and monthly in this space that was found. I'm going to call it found space, make and create space. And so I want to get into talking about, you literally walked into a room that has like 3 screens in it and some rando tables. And now if I were to walk in today, it has shelves and activity space and faux windows that look to the outdoors. And so can you walk me through how when you walk by a trash pile somewhere, you're like, that's going in my library?
Absolutely. I mean, I have to admit that from a young age, I have been a trash picker. I have always just, you can't see this, folks, but Rain almost just did a spit take because I made her laugh. So yeah, I mean, I love to find something and repurpose it. And so I was so fortunate when I started this library space that when they had closed the original middle school library, there were a couple of people who went in and said, well, can I have those shelves to put in my classroom? Can I, if you're going to throw those out, let me take those home.
Like all teachers do. We scavenge.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually had gotten a set of wall shelves from that library when they had done a remodel, not a remodel, but like they had rearranged our middle school library, 15 years ago. And I had gotten a set of wall shelves that were in the classroom that I no longer was in. So I went to the teacher who had taken over my classroom and I said, hey, if I can move most of the books that are on here to something else, because most of them were like class novels that were going to live in a closet anyway. So I was like, if I can clean this up, can I take these shelves? He was like, absolutely. So that was one set of wall shelves. And then one of the guidance counselors came in and he was like, hey, I heard you're making a new library. I happen to have some of the shelves from the old library. They were going to throw them out. I brought them home to put in my barn to use as storage for when I'm doing like projects around the place, but I never actually got around to putting them back together. So do you want me to like bring those back? I was like, yeah, I want those back. So that was awesome because he brought in a 12 feet of double-sided standing shelves.
Wow.
Yeah, wood, like nice solid wood. And so I had to, this is where DIY started because it was a single 12-foot section. So it had an end panel on either side. He had, I think, there were 2 or 3 of those in the library before they got rid of them. He had taken 3 end panels, but not 4 end panels. So I could turn this into 2 6-foot sections, but only one of them was actually complete. the other one was missing an end. And so there was no support. So the whole thing was sort of like falling down to one end.
So this is a note, even if you work in a library, if you have never actually put together or taken apart or moved school library shelving, I just moved mine last spring, and I, to a degree, even didn't realize how many like pins and nuts and bolts and pieces are dependent to keep one piece to the next piece to the next piece. It's not built like home furniture.
No.
Like I was like, oh, I want this one section of shelves, and then my custodian and I take it apart, are like, oh wait, can't have just one section. So keep in mind, you have to have like each part that's designed to connect to the next part.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, there's got to be a way, like, because this end panel is just wood. So I can get wood. Like I can figure this out. And my wife happens to be a contractor. So she's awesome with tools. She, can look at something and kind of go like, okay, I see how we're going to do this. So I went home, I explained the situation. I was like, here's what I'm kind of seeing. Like, if we just get some lumber, we can fabricate a new end panel for this thing. And she was like, okay, so yeah, we can do that. We'll glue this up. We'll route out some channels to put in the movable shelf track inside. And I had to go to the depot and get some new hardware. But like, we basically, between the two of us, we fabricated a brand new end panel for this freestanding set of shelves. So now I've got 2 sets of freestanding shelves plus 1 set of wall shelves, 1 12-foot section of wall shelves. So we went from 0 shelves to 24 feet of shelving in a couple of months.
Yay.
Yeah, it was awesome. So now instead of just having tables with as many books as I can spread out, we've actually got some books, started doing face-outs displays, and that's when it really started to become like, okay, what else can I repurpose? So like my wife also is not very attached to keeping things. And so she likes to every once in a while just go through the house and be like, we don't need this. We don't use this. This can all go. So there's this little set of end tables that we had. And I was like, okay, those are coming to school with me. They became little book displays on the ends of the freestanding bookshelves. So like $0 for some little tables. And now I've got extra book display space. Trying to think of what else. Sort of just as things went along, whatever caught my eye, I would pull in and start using in whatever way I could. I didn't have any circulation desk. I didn't have a desk, period. So I started out on a table and very quickly realized table wasn't going to really cut it. I need something else. So there was a desk tucked away in a closet, in the book closet that was no longer being used for books. So I was like, okay, that desk is coming over here. That is now my circulation desk. So like I used this old, these wooden desk and a couple of tables to create my own circulation desk area. The desk ended up being too short. So I just got some 2x4s and built risers and just lifted the desk up high enough so that it was at the level I needed it at. It was just a lot of stuff like that, like looking around and being like, this is good enough, or this thing can fill this hole, or this isn't quite right. Let me see what I can change about it to make it serve the needs that we have here.
And since it's only been a couple of years, have you actually secured funding and a budget for this library now?
Yes. So, interesting story about our budget. So, the supervisor that hired me gave me a chunk of money at the end of 2021-22 to buy books. And then she told me, oh, well, so I've been hoping something like this might happen, that we might get a good library space going in the middle school, high school. So I've been doing some figuring with our budgets. And you're going to have a very respectable budget to use next year. And I don't want to get into numbers because there was some, I did not know this at the time, but my budget was significantly higher than the other 3 library budgets. And that ended up causing some real hard feelings at one point, but I didn't know this at the time. She just said, here's a chunk of money, spend it. And so that was great. So I was able to buy, I was still at the high school at the time. I bought some new shelving for the high school because we didn't have enough. Buying as many books as I could buy, anything I could throw on a list and haul home, I was able to add to the collection. So that was awesome for the first year. Then at the end of the first year, that supervisor came and said, I'm retiring, but you've got the same budget for next year. Let's spend most or all of it now so that it is all taken care of. I was like, great, let's do that. So did that. New supervisor came in, had very different ideas about how the library should go, what supervision should be like. And I went from knowing exactly how many pennies I had left to being told, well, you've got some money. Why don't you tell me what you want and we'll see if that fits in the budget? And so it became more of a grab bag of like,
Yeah.
what am I able to get? That I just recently got a new supervisor and we're going to kind of see how things go from there. She was actually asking me the other day, like, so what does your budget look like? I was like, honestly, I have no idea. And she was like, how can you have no, I explained the situation to her. She's like, okay, well, we'll have to see about that. So I said, okay, that's fine.
Just out of curiosity, do you know how many volumes you have in your library now?
Physical volumes, we have 5,000 between the two schools. We share a collection with the high school.
Gotcha.
So although we opened a physical space in the middle school, the entire collection and our catalog is shared between the two schools. So some of it lives at the middle school, some of it lives at the high school. If it has to travel, it travels. Like that's how we roll with things.
Yeah, I'm just reminding everybody that you started with 0 for the middle school and some in the high school. So that's a lot in just a few years.
Yes. I was super fortunate. I also benefited one of the lower grade libraries had a whole, like literally an entire room, about 1,000 volumes of YA stuff that they ended up sending up to the middle school, high school. Perfect. So like I have just been so fortunate to be in the right place at the right time to grab onto so many things to make this library work.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you think's next for your library? What do you need or want or foresees coming?
Well, that's an interesting question. That's a very interesting question. I happen to know, let me rephrase that. I'm pretty sure that I may be coming into some money to buy some stuff for the library. I think there is a program that it has nothing to do with the library, but somehow the library is going to benefit. And I think we're going to get a couple of $1,000, which is awesome. And so right now I'm kind of in this place where I'm trying to figure out what's the best use of that money. One of the things I want to do is I want more shelving in the space because there's literally just no such thing as enough shelving in a library, especially.
I kept telling people this when they were showing me remodels of my library stuff. And I'm like, more shelves.
Yes.
And they're like, no, they're not full all the way. I'm like, of course they're not full all the way. More shelves.
Yes, exactly. So, and right now, the space that I'm in, it was a conference room. It is just a little bit bigger than a classroom. Like it is not a huge space. So I've got 12 feet of wall shelving and then 9 feet of wall shelving and then 12 feet of wall shelving and two 6 foot freestanders.
Like standalones.
Yeah. And so I've been trying to figure out like where else can I even literally just jam more shelves in this space? And it literally just, again, right place, right time. One of the giant 60-inch monitors that is on the wall in the library blew up. Something inside it went pop and smoke came out. No fire, fortunately. But the principal came in and was like, look, the tech department is going to have the budget to replace this, but do you need it? And I said, don't really. It's taking up a lot of space on the wall. She was like, because I kind of want to use it someplace else if they're going to bring it into a place. I was like, that's fine by me. Like, that totally makes sense. She said, what might you put on that wall instead? And I said, I don't know. Like, I would kind of maybe right now I've got a table sort of over there. It's kind of crowded, that space. She's like, what if you got some more shelves? Would that go there? I was like, yes, shelves would go over there. So immediately I started taking measurements and like trying to figure out, okay, so I can put 12 feet on this wall if I really like go for it. So that's sort of been the direction I've been leaning in. But my new supervisor came in the other day and I was talking to her about this. And she was like, so just a thought, what if you didn't spend all of the money to do 12 feet of shelves? What if you only did a couple of feet of shelves and you bought some books with the rest of it? And I was like, I hear what you're saying, because that
books
maybe
to put on the shelves.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to this. So that's sort of like in my head. I also put in for a grant for a giant poster printer for the library, but I didn't get the grant. So I'm kind of like, the money I'm going to get is going to be just about exactly the amount I need to get a giant poster printer. Do I want to do that? Like, there's all these possibilities. And one of my problems is I want to do all the things and I want to do them all now. So, yeah. So I'm kind of like, man, I'm getting pulled in like 9 directions. I literally I spent the other day just making a list of $3,000 worth of books that I could buy that would go with sort of this program that the money might come from.
So I believe this is best practice, and maybe I'm cray, but I have lists upon lists upon lists upon lists upon lists. And if anybody walked in my office door, y'all can't see me, but I'm pointing at my office door right now, walked in my office door and was like, hi, Rain, here's $10,000. You have 5 minutes to spend it. I could.
Yep.
I absolutely could.
100%.
I could do it with furniture. I could do it with objects. I could do it with books. I could do it with database. Drop money on me challenge.
Yes.
And most school librarians I know, all school librarians, I want to say all, maybe I'm lying. No, do that because you never know when or if you might get gifted some money. It's rare. It doesn't happen that people just gift you money.
Yeah.
But in the case it does happen, and this happens a lot. I don't know about other people where they work, but here at end of school year budget time, when they're wrapping up the budget and there's use or lose money, and then my principal will be like, I have this like $900 that has to be spent today. And I'll be like, okay.
Great.
And
Challenge
5 minutes
accepted.
later, spent.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm with you. Like, I want to do all the things all the time, but I'm also prepared if I get a gift, or prepared to make choices eventually and then be like, yeah, this is back burner for a little bit longer.
Yep.
So that I appreciate that you're in that process right now.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, you're so inspiring because you frequently will post things like, I found this funky table at a bank and it's now in my library. Or, I just built a window because I don't have windows out of a TV and some frames. And do you DIY with the kids then, because it's your niche and you're so good at it, and they're actually living in a product of you doing that? They're living in a product of your creativity, where it's your care shelf cart thingy that you made or your bank refurb table. Do you actually do these things with kids in the library?
So I don't do, there's not too many projects I do with the students. There are projects that I'll work on as the students are sort of wandering through. So they see me doing some of this stuff, but they don't actually get the hands-on of it. We have an outstanding electronics class. We've got an outstanding technology class. We've got an outstanding, they call it tech ed, where the kids actually build lots of stuff. So I try not to step on their toes. I don't want to set up a competition between the library and what they're doing, because they've got budget and time and space to do that kind of stuff. And I don't really have a lot of room for those kind of things. But ideally, I would love to have more maker space stuff going on. It's just finding the space and finding the time for the students to be able to enjoy it is what it kind of comes down to. So we haven't really gotten there yet. It's a goal. It's a someday.
In the dream.
Yes, exactly.
You write quite a bit for Knowledge Quest.
Yep.
And you've written quite a few times about DIYing.
Yes.
Some of my favorite articles included tools you must have in your library.
Yes.
And I actually took your articles and checked to make sure I had them.
Nice.
Which I did. Because great minds.
I'm not surprised. Not surprised.
I was all like, do I have this? Do I have this? What kind of feedback have you received? Rain's obviously fangirl, but what kind of feedback have you received from others about what you're doing? Like building a shelf or making a cart or stealing a table from outside a trash can, or writing these articles about what you need to do to fix wheels. Greasing the wheels thing came in handy when I refurbed a stool not too long ago.
Absolutely. Get the razor, cut out all the little fibers and the hairs and stuff. Oh, yeah. So nice when they just spin and spin.
When they spin and you can move it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I have been, I kind of want to say amazed at the reactions I've gotten, especially I get good reactions from the students, but the adults who have seen this space and know what the library used to be and what it is now and what it was before what it is now, I just get regularly people walk in and be like, holy smokes, I can't believe this is the same space as it was 18 months ago. It's incredibly gratifying to hear that, because I'm so used to just I'm always adding new things, so I lose track of it all. It's just all that, it's all part of the library and I don't see it anymore. But I actually made a video a couple of months ago showing, I had happened to take a video when I first started in the space where it's just the tables and that's it. And I was like, I'm going to recreate that video now that I've got my fake windows up and I've got, shelves and books, and I recreated the video and did a side by side. And it was blowing my mind to say 18 months ago, this was an empty concrete bunker. And now it is a fully functional, small, but lovely and well-used library space. And it kind of surprised me because, again, I see it and I don't think about it. But I showed that to a couple of people and they're like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. I can't believe that. How did you do all of that? And I'm like, I don't know. I just kind of did it. I wasn't setting out with this end product in mind. It was, this is where we're at. And
this is the journey.
Yeah. And that's what it is. Like, it is a journey because I'm already thinking about what the next library space might be. There's a courtyard in our school that I've got my eye on that would totally make an amazing library. I've started those discussions with the principal. We'll see, maybe someday. Probably not before I retire, but who knows? But
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the guidance counselors, one of the guy who brought me the freestanding shelves, he loves coming in and just looking around and going, wow, like just taking it in and seeing how different it is. The superintendent who uses this, he loves using this room for his conferences. It's his conference room. He loves it. Out of all the spaces in the district, this is the space that he loves to use. And it's been a little bit of push and pull because he wants that space for his conference room. But now it is the library, and so there's a little bit of pushback against him coming in and using it.
Because the kids are like, our library.
Yes. But even he has come in and been like, I can't believe how different this space feels. Mm-hmm. It feels lived in. It feels welcoming. It feels warm. And like,
I love that.
Yes.
That's what I want my library to feel like. Home.
Yes. It's a cozy space. Like we are, yesterday I had 2 classes at the same time in there and we were shoulder to shoulder and we were, in each other's spaces, but it is the fact that the space is getting used. And I actually have had some high school students who they're not supposed to come over to the middle school, but every once in a while they'll come walking through the middle school to go visit an old teacher and say hi. And just last week, I had a kid walking by and he sticks his head in and he goes, what the hell? Why didn't we have this? And I was like, I tried, man. I tried.
I love that.
So yeah, because the middle school was without a library space for just about 5 years. So that's literally an entire generation went through school, our middle school, high school, without knowing what a library space looked like in the middle school. So
I have this sneaky suspicion we're eventually going to have to do a part 2 to this because I have questions I have not gotten to yet. But to be conscientious of listeners' time, I do want to ask, we will revisit this. I will be a guest host again. What advice do you have for school librarians who have considered some DIY, but are not really have not pushed themselves to the gung-ho? It sounds like you and I are cut from the same cloth where it's like, I see a need, I see something, I have the ability to do it. Out comes the drill. Mm-hmm. But what advice do you have for someone who might feel a little nervous or tentative about that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've always loved to just be hands-on with stuff, but I was not great with tools and construction for a long time. I did some stage crew stuff in high school, but it was super minimal stuff. I did a little bit in college, super minimal stuff. And then when my wife moved into the first house that she bought and she started doing stuff around the house, both of us were new at DIY stuff around the house. And we started just kind of at first very tentatively, oh, well, we should move this thing and this drywall, but that means we've got to cut the drywall. Oh, I don't know. What are we going to do? Oh my gosh. And at some point we just both kind of went, you know what? We can hire somebody else to do it, or we can figure out how to do it ourselves. Mm-hmm. And did we screw stuff up? Absolutely. 100%. But we also kind of figured out, there was stuff that we learned that we're really good at. We learned that there's stuff that we're not very good at. But until we tried it, we didn't know. And there's very few things that I have found that you can't undo. You can
fix.
Yeah, you can fix it. You can undo it. Worst case scenario, you break something and it is truly and well and broken. Okay, that's going to happen no matter what. I work in a middle school. Any day that something's not broken is a special day. So if I'm the one doing the breaking, that's the only unusual thing that's going on there. But it's really not all that unusual either because I break plenty of stuff. So I think it's really a matter of just try not to be intimidated. Don't let it get in your head. Just know that, yeah, you're going to maybe not do it right and that's okay. But you're going to also figure out how not to do it so that the next time you go to do it, you'll have better skills, It's like repairing books. When I first started repairing books, I was terrified that I was going to screw up the books. And now it's that page is kind of sticking halfway out, get some scissors, clip it off, and it'll be fine. You kind of you get used to it and you kind of accept that it's going to be what it's going to be. That's kind of where I'm at.
That's the advice. It's going to be what it's going to be.
That's it.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Because this is the SLLN podcast, it's time for a book break.
Book break.
Woohoo! Love it. All right. So let's see. if I'm going to break some books, I am going to bring in, there's this author called Dave Duncan, and he is apparently an incredibly prolific writer. I did not realize this until very recently, but
Don't you like to be the last to know?
Yeah, like I had no idea. I had picked up one of his books. I had seen it recommended on Reddit, and the book was The Gilded Chain, and it's a fantasy book. It's relatively low fantasy. It's got magic, but it's mostly about this guy who is trained to be a protector of the king. And he's got this, like, he is bound to the king by magic. And so he has to, like, he literally has to protect the king. And the story follows this guy from his childhood through his retirement, like over the course of like 50 years. And it tells it in a very engaging way. Like I generally like a fantasy story. And this was just real like meat and potatoes. Like this guy goes around doing interesting stuff in a really unusual world. And it's told in a little bit of an unusual way. Like it's not conflict, climax, resolution. Like there's sort of set pieces throughout the book. And the story starts with 3 different points of view. And eventually you see how this ties together. So it just really grabbed me. And I read this maybe 5 years ago, really enjoyed it, realized it was a series, but at the time I had other stuff going on, kind of forgot about it. Jump to a week ago. I happened to be on Amazon, and Amazon has learned that if there is a book that is a $1.99 or less, I am likely to buy it. So they pop up in my Kindle feed, hey, you read this other book by this author. The next book in the series is $1.99. I was like, cool, let's do it. So it actually turned out book 2 and 3 were $1.99. So I bought them both. I had book 2, and book 2 is called Lord of the Firelands. Also really good. Also about these other characters in this same world who are also bound to the king, except not quite. And some stuff goes on. And I got to the end of book 2. And at the end of book 2, something happens that directly contradicts half of book 1. Like this thing happening in book 2 means that the second half of book 1 could not happen. So I'm going, what the hell is this?
Are you frustrated? Because that frustrates me.
I'm a little frustrated. I'm like, How can this be? So I start book 3, and book 3 seems to sort of be lining up with book 2, but not with book 1. And I'm like, what? Now, book 3 starts with an author foreword that says, each of these books can be read, each of the 3 books in the series can be read as standalone books. But if you read all 3, you get the full picture. And I'm like, I need the full picture. Like, I need to understand how book 1 and book 2 can directly contradict each other. How does book 3 clear this up for me? So I'm starting to read book 3, and I'm like, wait a minute, maybe I'm just misremembering. So I went back and I couldn't find the copy of book 1 that I had bought because I bought a physical copy. So I bought the digital copy so that I could reread book 1. So now I reread book 1. And then I jumped back to the end of book 2 to make sure that what I thought I read in book 2 actually was what I thought I read. And it was. So now I'm in the middle of book 3 trying to figure out how is this going to tie all these 3 books together, because so far it hasn't happened. And I am so lost and confused and a little frustrated, but also so damn curious to see where this is going to go. That is my book break, is to drop some Dave Duncan on you and see if you are a fantasy reader. I think you'll enjoy pretty much any one of these books on its own. If you do read all 3, I have not finished all 3 yet, so I don't know how this is going to tie together. But if you know, and you can...
we definitely need an episode 2, because I need to know what happened.
I am so baffled. And I've got maybe an idea of what's going to happen, but it doesn't quite line up with the rest of what I think I know. So right now, I am just floating, just trying to figure it out.
This is so funny, because this is what I love and appreciate about you as a reader. And like all readers do different things. You're sticking with it because you need to know the fix.
Mm-hmm.
I would throw the book across the room and be done. I'd be like, I'm done with you. How dare you do this to me? Because I get flustered too easy, and there are too many other books in a pile for me to go visit.
Well, that's the thing. My New Year's resolution was I was going to read through my Goodreads TBR, which is at around 603 books right now. And I started chipping away at it, but then I have lost that, and I'm just whatever comes across my path, I'm jumping into.
That was an unattainable goal.
Well, I figure someday I'll get to at least some of it, but we'll see.
There's no such thing as an ending a TBR list, just so you know.
That is true. That is true.
Too many books, too little time. Well, this was brilliant and very, very fun. And again, I did not touch everything I had prepped for, so we may have to visit again.
We can do this.
If
we can
the
do
audience
this.
demands it.
Yeah, we'll have to see. If I was not the worst guest of the universe, I know I can host, but I don't know how well I guessed, so we'll see.
I actually think you're a brilliant guest. I really, really loved it. I hope everybody loves it as much as I did. I appreciate you being open to this idea when I was like, hey, no, literally, people need to hear about this. And
I will take your word for that.
I'm like, you are the guest. By the way, y'all, he kind of blew me off the first time I said it. I was just a little naggy. I'm like, no, you're the guest in your own podcast about how to build a library and DIY it. Because I think, especially even if you're walking into a library that exists but hasn't been helped in a lot of years or touched, or you're walking into an uncomfortable situation where you need to make a space or whatever, this idea that, or even if you're in a pretty great library or great space, we're not all getting the things we need.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea that you can see something, create it yourself, and make it work is a very hallmarky thing of school librarianship. And I think more of us should talk about. Plus, it's just fun.
Absolutely.
It's fun to build something.
It is.
So thank you so much for being the most gracious guest on your own podcast.
Thank you so much for being such a gracious host. I appreciate it.
Hey, this was fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the SLLN podcast. Be sure to check out the show notes for the episode. They feature links to resources shared by our guest, as well as ways to keep in touch with them, and links to the book break titles. I'd love to hear from you. If you have feedback, a comment, an idea, a question, or something you want to share, you can email drtlovesbooks@gmail.com. That's drtlovesbooks@gmail.com. Know a librarian with something we could learn from? Let us know. Until next time, be good, be safe, and be well.